Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I was dropping this video today. And today we have spiced salmon cubes with a drizzle of garlic sauce served over some mashed potatoes. But if you want to sound fancy, you can say potato puree. So let's hop right into the video. So let's get started on the homemade mashed potatoes. So here I have 3 russet potatoes that are already peeled, and I'm just going to cut them up into cubes. While I'm doing that, I do have some water in a pot that is on a medium heat, and I'm going to bring that to a boil. While that's heating up, I am going to place my cube potatoes in some cold water, and that's just to make sure that my potatoes don't brown. So once your water is brought to a slight boil, you are then going to carefully put your potatoes in your water, and then you're going to put your lid on top and let that cook until you're able to take a knife and easily slide it through the potatoes. So here I have some salmon fillets, 3 of them, and I'm going to cut my salmon into 1-inch cubes. Try your best to cut them the same size. I get it, each salmon piece may be different, but just try your best to cut them into 1-inch cubes, so that way when you cook it later, everything can cook evenly. And if it doesn't, like some of my pieces were kind of smaller than the others, I just removed those first before the other ones. If y'all get what I'm saying, y'all see what I'm talking about later. So I'm going to cut mine into 1-inch cubes, and then I'm going to place them into a nice bowl so I can season my salmon. Because again, it is spiced salmon cubes. So now that we have our salmon cut into 1-inch cubes, we are then going to season our salmon. So here I have some kosher salt, but you can use regular if you want to. I have some ground black pepper. I have some paprika. You can also use smoked paprika if you want to. I have some garlic powder, and then I have some Cajun seasoning. And then of course, you can't have seafood without adding in Obey. I'm a Maryland girl. We use Obey for pretty much anything that involves seafood. So once you add all of your seasonings in, you then want to add in about a tablespoon of olive oil or grapeseed oil or avocado oil, whatever type of oil you want to use. And then you're just going to go in and mix it all around to make sure that all the seasonings are nicely incorporated. And while we're doing this, we want to go ahead and put the saute pan on the stove and let it heat up. I have my stove on a medium-high heat. Now, once you mix your salmon up, it should look something like this. And so now we are ready to actually cook our salmon. So I have some grapeseed oil, about a tablespoon in my saute pan, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my cubed up salmon pieces in there. Again, my stove is on a medium-high heat, and I'm going to get a nice sear on each salmon cube. Again, some pieces may be bigger than the others, so you just want to watch that, eye that, and you may need to flip those pieces over quicker because you don't want to overcook those pieces. So after about, I want to say 4 to 5 minutes, I flipped each piece over, and then I let that cook for an additional 2 minutes, and then I put in 1 tablespoon of butter that I cut in half. And then also you're going to add in you can add in some freshly squeezed lemon juice or just some regular lemon juice, and you just want to baste your salmon pieces so that way all the flavor can just be absorbed, the butter, the lemon. Also, if you want to add in some thyme or some rosemary, you can. I didn't because I felt like, I didn't want to take away anything from the sauce, but I don't know. You could do it. Maybe next time I'll do it. I don't know. But you can add in butter, lemon juice, any type of herb that you want to. And then you just, again, want to baste it in the sauce. Now I'm going to do this for about 1 minute, and then after that I'm going to cut my stove down to a low heat, and I'm just going to let that simmer in the sauce for an additional 2 to 3 minutes. After 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to remove my salmon cubes, and I'm just going to place them to the side. And you can remove also if there were big pieces that fell off in the pan, because we're going to use all of those juices that we cooked in the salmon to make our sauce, guys. So I'm just going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter to start. I am going to add in more later. 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. You can use fresh garlic if you want to. And I'm just going to let that melt. And again, I have my stove now on a high heat. I'm just going to let that melt. And then I'm going to slowly add in some heavy whipping cream. Now, you can cut your stove down to a medium heat once you start adding in your heavy whipping cream. But yeah, you want to add in heavy whipping cream. And I did about just over 1 cup. I can't remember. It was I eye it. So I want to say it was a little over 1 cup. And then I added in 1 more tablespoon of butter. And I'm just going to mix that around. And then once everything's mixed, I'm going to bring it to a slight boil. And I'm just going to let that thicken up. And also we're going to add in some seasonings. We're going to add in some garlic powder. We're going to add in some salt. We're going to add in some black pepper. And then we're going to add in some parsley. And we're going to just mix that all around. And then once your seasonings are added in, you can actually cut your stove down to a low heat and just let that cook and let the sauce do what it do. It is more seasonings in there because, again, we use the flavors from the salmon. So don't worry that it's not really seasoned. It is delicious. So just let the sauce do what it do. Sometimes when you're cooking with food, you ain't got to be extra because things that you've already cooked will add on to the next thing that you're cooking if you're cooking it in the same pan, if that makes sense. But yeah, we're going to add in all our seasonings. We're going to cut our stove down to a low heat and we're just going to let that sauce simmer. Okay, so now back to our potatoes. So our potatoes are done. They have been cooking now for over 20 minutes. And so I'm just going to drain the water out of them and I'm going to cut my stove on a high heat. And if you have a potato masher, you can use that. If you want to use a spoon, I'm using a whisk and I'm going to try my best just to mash them all up. Now, you don't have to get them extremely mashed because once you add in that butter and that heavy whipping cream or the milk, whatever you prefer to use, it is going to smooth and it's going to smooth. So in total, I added in 1 stick of butter, but I started off with 4 tablespoons and then I went in and added the additional ones later. So I'm just going to mix that all around. And as you can see, it's already starting to get smooth. And you just want to make sure that your stove is cut on a high heat so it can absorb any additional water that is still left in the mashed potatoes because we don't want a watery mashed potato or potato puree if you're trying to be fancy. So we're going to mix that all around, add in the rest of the butter, and then we're going to slowly add in I'm using heavy whipping cream, but again, you can use milk. I did it 1/4 cup at a time. And in total, I added in just over 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. And then once you add in that, you're going to add in your seasonings. Again, black pepper, salt, and garlic powder. That's it. Again, we have flavors coming from the salmon. We have flavors coming from the sauce. We don't need, to over season our food, if that makes sense. But hey, it's your food. If you want to go ahead and add all them seasonings to everything, you can. But for me, I just feel like I don't want anything to overpower anything. So I'm just using those 3 seasonings and I'm going to mix it all together. And as you can see, our mashed potatoes are looking beautiful. Nice and creamy. I know y'all was all getting on me about my box potatoes, but I can take them either way. Box potatoes jazzed up or homemade potatoes, just depending on my mood. So I'm going to mix that all around and then we will be ready for presentation time because we all know presentation is key. So starting with my bowl that I got from Target, I'm going to add in those beautifully creamy mashed potatoes or potato puree. And I'm just going to kind of make like a hole in the middle because that is where our salmon cubes are going to be placed. So I added in about 10 pieces of salmon. And then I am going to, of course, take that creamy thickened up sauce and just drizzle it on top. And then after I do that, I had to zoom in for y'all because this is a show in its own. Drizzle that on top as much as you want to, and then you're going to take some more parsley and you are going to add that as a garnish on top of your salmon cubes. And then that's it, guys. How beautifully, sometimes, I cook salmon a lot, but this got to be one of my favorite salmon dishes. And I don't even like salmon like that, but this got to be one of my favorite salmon dishes. But that's pretty much it, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys are washing your hands, and I will see you guys at my next video.